There's been a lot of common themes that we've heard this week. The first one's really been about culture, right? So if you think about this shift to mobile, everyone has the same question. It's like, how do we do it? And so a lot of the things that we're hearing is, how do I actually adjust and make the right investments in talent and the operational models that I have, and also just investing in the disciplines that are going to help me make that shift to mobile? Because the culture and having the right set of resources implemented from the beginning, I think, make that a lot easier. The second piece is just on, again, how can I become a mobile marketer, and how can I develop new businesses on the back of mobile? And then the third is really about creating long-term value. And so reevaluating, I think, moving from a place of the CPM economy, which most media has been classically traded on, to thinking about the real value economy, which is, are we driving long-term brand impact? Are we driving online sales? Are we driving sales in store? Has been something that we've been really, really focused on. So the top three themes have been really about culture in the organizations, how can I make that shift to mobile, and then thirdly, how am I going to value this going forward?
So mobile is massive, however, it represents a fairly small part of the advertising pie in digital. What are some of the issues that the advertisers are facing, or some of the barriers that they're dealing with, and how might that change?
Yeah, I think, for marketers, it's always been about reaching the right people and reaching them where they are and being as contextually relevant as possible. And at Facebook, we've really always focused around insights, we've focused around people, we've focused around creating that long-term value. And increasingly, I think what we're seeing, because consumers are interacting and playing so much more with things like mobile video, a lot of the marketers in the room that we've talked to this week, they're looking for more kind of creative variables to tell more immersive stories in environments that are largely autoplay and largely sound off. And so the implications for that are big, right, in terms of how do I actually need to reinvent the production process? How can I take the existing production that I'm doing on a lot of television commercials, repurpose those assets, and actually feed-proof them to make them relevant for environments like Facebook and Instagram? So this week we showed a lot of examples where we're developing new products, like our Canvas product, which allows you to have a really deep, really rich, immersive experience in mobile with a lot of sight, sound, and motion, or our carousel ads that allow you to tell a more interesting, visually rich story, but also lead you to a path of purchase. And really it's about the variables, Andy. They really want to see, give me the creative variables that allow me to tell the stories that are going to not only engage consumers, but they're also going to lead them to a real business benefit and a real business value.
Autoplay, silent video as a commercial, how is that looking? And I know you guys have some ways of implementing that, taking traditional advertising. Explain that to us, please.
Yeah, we don't have all the answers, and that's part of what we were seeking to get this week and working with a lot of our agency partners. And so a lot of the questions we're trying to answer is, how do you build long-term brand equity in a mobile world with things like sound off and autoplay? And so some of the things that we're even doing on the product side to address this, just to make it simpler, is teaching them, do you need to, if it's a celebrity endorsement, instead of putting that celebrity at the end of the 30 seconds, how do you put them in the first 3 seconds, right? How do you do things like, we're starting to turn on things like captions. And so rather than you having to figure out what the people are saying in the commercial, is could you actually have subtitles and captions that are running programmatically that allow you to actually really figure out what's going on contextually with the message that you're seeing? And then if you're interested as a consumer, you can dive in really, really quickly. And so from a product development standpoint, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for advertisers to give us assets and for us to be able to help them not only kind of recut and reframe some of the stories that they're putting into the actual ads, but also being able to do things like captions that'll allow them to, again, sort of allow them to reach those consumers and hopefully get those consumers to engage a whole lot faster.
So Patrick, are you getting your hands into the helping out with some of the structure of that new creative treatment, or are you sort of explaining to the agencies how to do that, or what's that process look like?
Yeah, I think it's first being really honest and saying, we believe that this is a problem worth solving. Much the same way as that there was, a challenge and a creative dilemma that people had to have when they moved from radio into television. And so we don't have all of the data, we don't have all of the answers on this yet, but we believe that consumer attention, consumer time, and the way that you build long-term brand value and equity is going to be very different in a mobile environment than it's going to be in TV, than it's going to be in digital display, than it's going to be in pre-roll, because the expectation of the consumer is just different. And so part of what we're doing this week is showing what we believe is possible and showing what we believe can help drive the real business outcomes over time. But we're going to need their help to scale this because, again, we think this is a great place to build long-term brand equity in a social mobile world, but it hasn't been done before. And so a lot of what we're talking about this week is partnerships that will allow us to help go and move a lot faster.
There's a big demand for video. People want to advertise on mobile or on the desktop. They want to be involved. What are the opportunities, with Facebook around video?
Sure, and there's what we're seeing is we're trying to make sure we develop the creative assets and really have a container that has a lot of different variables that allows creatives and allows brands to tell stories through sight, sound, and motion. And for some, those might be using things like animated GIFs. For some, it's full-form video. In the emerging markets, we're even looking at things where we can have some motion in the ads that are rendering on things like feature phones, but are low bandwidth, they're highly compressed, but again, sort of communicate the brand value and the brand attributes that brands are trying to communicate to consumers in those markets. So what's different for Facebook in 2016 when it comes to the video product is the variables component. It's new ad formats, whether it is a portrait, whether it's a landscape, whether it's a square, whether it's deep immersive experiences like Canvas, whether it's our carousel ads. And again, with the thing that we're primarily focused on is driving those business objectives that are most important to advertisers, be it a brand advertiser who's trying to build equity, or being it a direct response advertiser who's actually trying to get somebody to convert to a sale.
Yes, that was my next question. What is the balance? I mean, I guess it depends what people want, and how, what's the opportunity around targeting and what's the opportunity about more, brand visibility in a more broad sense?
Yeah, well, what we're seeing is it all starts with an insight. And people are taking those insights and they're saying, how will those insights actually help me inform what I'm going to do creatively to tell the stories in order to drive that business result? One of the most recent examples we've seen is with Wendy's. And we worked with VML on this, where they looked at trying to target males that were 18 to 34 that were potentially interested in their new barbecue sandwich. They originally thought that this barbecue sandwich, they would want to talk to people in markets that knew a lot about barbecue. The insights actually told us that people that do the most talking about barbecue on Facebook are people that don't have access to good barbecue. They're people that live in Vermont, they're people that live in Wyoming, they're people that live in places where barbecue is not a big thing. And then we also found out that those same people have a high affinity for 80s TV stars. So VML and Wendy's went out and created these ads with a lot of 1980s TV stars to basically go tell the story of this new barbecue pulled pork sandwich, and it was one of their best-selling sandwiches last year. And so, again, we're looking at what are the insights that are going to power and drive the real creative storytelling that ultimately link back to a business objective.